So welcome back to some more conspiracy theories and unexplained mysteries. That's going to kind of alter your reality just a little bit. But before we get to the craziness, I need y'all to help me unplug some more people out of the matrix. And you do that by hitting the like button, then putting hashtag unplugged in the comment section. All right, and subscribe if you're new. Let's get to the video.
Major institutions that we rely on. This is peeling back a curtain that we have never seen done this level of granularity.
What's the deal with aliens? It's difficult to completely rule out the existence of other intelligent life forms because space is such a vast and mysterious frontier about which we know so little. Considering that life has developed and adapted to survive in some of Earth's harshest environments, just look at tardigrades. It's reasonable to assume that other interplanetary life forms have done the same. Meanwhile, Edward Snowden now has access to some of the most closely kept secrets in the country as a former CIA employee and NSA contractor. And so, as any inquisitive mind with access to the CIA's equivalent of Google might do, he looked for solutions to some of the most important questions asked by society. Attention Area 51. Stormers, chemtrail believers, and doubters of climate change. Edward Snowden has discovered information regarding UFOs that should worry us all. What evidence does Edward Snowden have? Are there really aliens and should we be afraid of them? Let's find out. Imagine what it might be like to encounter an advanced extraterrestrial species that discovered us and landed on Earth. The vast majority of extraterrestrial representations in films like War of the Worlds and Independence Day feature malice, brutality, and the obliteration of any rivals from other galaxies. Our imaginative depiction of aliens portrays them as aggressive, egotistical, and completely indifferent to humans.
Which, by the way, they still could be. That's still a possibility. So let's not try to get everybody to thinking that they're all just going to be so nice to us. No, we still need to keep that in the back of our mind, that this may be a problem we have to deal with in the future.
Whether they enslave us, kill us, or devour us. Many brilliant people, including Stephen Hawking, David Brin, and Elon Musk, are afraid of this outcome. However, there is absolutely no proof that aliens are malicious in any way.
No.
In fact, given the evidence already in existence, keeping our presence hidden from extraterrestrial life may be the worst choice humanity has ever made. Why are people nowadays so eager to accept the possibility of extraterrestrial life? There is a good chance that we have neighbors somewhere in the ether, because many findings and speculations from some of the brightest minds in science suggest that there is likely something beyond us in the universe. Commander David Fravor can still not understand how a training mission in San Diego on November 14, 2004, turned into something he will never forget. Fravor recalls witnessing a tic-tac-shaped item that moved considerably more quickly than any existing known weaponry. We're flying
For y'all that don't know, he's actually testifying before Congress at that UFO hearing that we've been checking out. So check out some of the videos we've been looking at. The actual them testifying and giving their opening speeches and talking about and going in further in depth of what they saw and what they think is going on.
New Super Hornets. It was an air defense exercise. 2 good guys against 2 bad guys, Fravor said in a History Channel video interview. It was an air defense drill. Up until the USS Princeton requested Fravor and colleagues for a practical mission, everything appeared to be as usual. Fravor and the other pilots soon noticed something peculiar after changing course. What seemed to be a sunken jet or submerging submarine swimming wildly just below the water's surface. It's white. It has no wings. It has no rotors. I go holy. What is that? Fravor said. The UFO reportedly lacked windows, and infrared detectors failed to detect any exhaust fumes. Fravor claims that shortly thereafter, his curiosity got the better of him, and he made the decision to take a closer look. The craft emerged, rose quickly, and started to mimic Fravor's flying pattern as he started to fall toward the water. Then, in a split second, it sped past the jet's nose and vanished. Fravor and the other pilots told the rest of the crew about their experiences when they returned to the USS Nimitz. A second pilot soon after took off in search of the UFO and was successful. This pilot successfully managed to get a lock on the Tic Tac. The Navy maintains the public was never supposed to view the tape in the first place, but it has now officially published it, after it had already been leaked. In November 1944, a number of the Air Force, witnessed the group that would later be called Foo Fighters, a moniker derived from the Smokey Stover comic strip. The Foo Fighters were characterized as a form of enigmatic aircraft that blazed red and had great agility when zipping and turning through the air. The first person to see the lights was Lieutenant Fred Ringwald, who just so happened to be a passenger in a night fighter flying above the Rhine Valley. 8 to 10 of the aircraft were reportedly lined up in a row, according to airmen. The party checked with the ground radar crew because they were worried they might be hostile aircraft, but they hadn't noticed anything unusual. As one of the pilots prepared to engage in combat, he turned his aircraft around only to discover that the lights had disappeared as swiftly as they had emerged. But the sightings continued after that. A different pilot reported seeing a T-shaped display of flashing red and green lights in the middle of December 1944. These lights vanished just as quickly as they emerged. There were a number of such sightings that followed, and despite attempts to explain them, the airmen were experiencing combat fatigue. The lights were caused by some strange weather phenomenon, or they originated from some brand new, groundbreaking Nazi technology. They still remain a mystery. Furthermore, Avi Loeb, a prominent astronomer who taught at Harvard and served as the department's chair, has proposed an intriguing but outlandish theory. He claims that the asteroid Oumuamua is actually space debris from an alien construction, or a crashed alien spacecraft. This might sound crazy coming from anyone else, but once more, Loeb is knowledgeable about the workings of space. I
don't think anything really sounds too far-fetched at this point. Do y'all agree? Like, nothing really seems like, and even for the non-believers, I think after this week and everything that's coming out, I don't think too much is going to seem far-fetched to them either.
Oumuamua theory is being embraced by truthers, but Loeb's colleagues are furious that he has proposed what they are calling an insult to honest scientific inquiry. According to research published in March 2021 by astronomers from Arizona State University, the object is a nitrogen iceberg that has broken off from a planet similar to Pluto in a far-flung star system. It would somewhat account for how reflective the item is. Loeb argued in opposition, saying that the chunk would have needed to form on a planet with an unreasonably high density. Therefore, the verdict is still out on this mystery space object. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, which the Department of Defense, DoD, established in 2007, was designed to investigate space-related phenomena that were difficult to understand and frequently involved the emergence of fast, unidentified aircraft. Luis Elizondo, a military intelligence official, oversaw the secret initiative that attempted to look into UFO contact allegations. Elizondo left the Pentagon 10 years later and told the New York Times that AATIP existed. In addition, Carl Sagan and Jill Tarter, two astronomers who think there may be life on other planets besides Earth, formed the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence SETI Institute. The SETI Institute, which collaborates with NASA and the National Science Foundation as a research contractor to pool resources and investigate the possibility of intelligent life on other planets, has as its mission to explore, understand, and explain the origin and nature of life in the universe and the evolution of intelligence. SETI employs a laser detection system in addition to optical and radio wave signals to search for indications of extraterrestrial technology. Yes, there is a whole scientific community dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. NASA announced on March 21, 2022, that there are over 5,000 exoplanets. As technology to explore the farthest reaches of space advances, we may expect this number to rise. This implies that there are countless known planets that haven't been thoroughly examined, and a number of others that are still undiscovered.
And this what makes it interesting that if they come forth with those spacecrafts that they're saying they don't have, but these whistleblowers are saying they have, if we're able to reverse engineer the technology that these whistleblowers are saying that we have in our possession, then we'll be able to travel to these planets, such as the ones that are so far away, just like that. It'll be no super delay and all this kind of other stuff going on, or it takes so many years to get. It'll be just like that. Get there, come back, and report the data that we've found.
May contain settings capable of supporting life. Who is to say that intelligent extraterrestrial life doesn't already exist on one or more exoplanets?
True.
The likelihood that we are not alone increases as we discover more about the cosmos. The question, is there anyone out there, arises because the entire cosmos is filled with worlds and we are becoming better listeners, to which we might have an answer shortly. But do we even care to find out? Is it more likely that aliens exist and are either peaceful explorers or violent planet killers? This is no longer just a science fiction subject. An increasing number of astronomers are actively seeking answers. Some people think we should broadcast an interstellar signal to check if any extraterrestrials contact us here on Earth. Some people think we should keep Earth all to ourselves. Edward Snowden.
I thought we were already doing that.
Snowden said in a podcast conversation with astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson that alien communications may be so securely encrypted that humans trying to eavesdrop on extraterrestrials would not know what they were hearing. According to Snowden, the period in which unencrypted messages are the norm is really brief. So if you have an alien civilization trying to listen for other civilizations, or our civilization trying to listen for aliens, there's only one small period in the development of their society where all of their communications will be sent via the most primitive and most unprotected means, he explained. But those holding out hope for contact from extraterrestrials can relax. According to researchers at the SETI Institute, which is devoted to the hunt for life in the universe, humanity's current search for alien intelligence does not depend on an understandable message. For them, finding the medium is the real hunt. According to Seth Shostak, head of the SETI Institute's Center for SETI Research, we're not looking for the message. As the search team put it, we're looking for the signal that tells us somebody has a transmitter. Fair enough. Snowden was babbling about encryption in general. It's unlikely he meant to be conversing about aliens or had done an in-depth study of how the quest for extraterrestrial intelligence has progressed. Shostak argued that data encryption was irrelevant. Because of its convenience and low cost, radio has been the primary tool in the search for extraterrestrial communications thus far. According to Shostak, the SETI Institute employs Earth's huge radio telescopes to look for narrowband communications. Many objects in nature generate radio noise, he added, but scientists have only ever identified a transmitter as the source of a narrowband signal. There's a possibility that if we actively message, with the intention of getting the attention of an intelligent civilization, that the civilization we contact would not necessarily have our best interests in mind, says Adler planetarium astronomer Lucian Walkowitz. However, there could be significant upsides to this. It could be the thing that kills off all life on Earth, or it could be the thing that speeds up the progress toward a better quality of life here. We can't possibly know that. Like many other astronomers, Walkowitz is undecided on the matter, but she believes there should be a discussion among all scientists. The Breakthrough Initiatives, a philanthropic organization dedicated to interstellar outreach and funded by billionaire Russian tech mogul Yuri Milner, is likely to ignite that discussion in the near future with its Breakthrough Message program, which would seek ideas from all over the world to create a message to aliens and figure out how to send it. Outreach for the program may begin soon, according to Pete Worden, the director of the Breakthrough Initiatives. We're well aware of the debate. Do you send things or not? There's a pretty vigorous opinion on both sides of our advisory panel. It's a very useful exercise to begin considering how to respond. What's the context? What best represents the people on Earth? This is an exercise for humanity, not necessarily about what we would send. The advisory panel's members have stated that the best message would be conveyed through an image and the possible 2,000 words it contains. The following query is more technical in nature. Given that you have an image or images, how should you best encrypt them such that they may be received? Breakthrough Message will work on those specifics, such as how to send the pictures, whether via radio or laser transmitters, how to send it with high fidelity, so it is not rendered unreadable due to interference from the interstellar medium. Which light wavelengths to use, or whether to spread a message across a wide spectrum, how many times to send it, and how often, and a myriad of other technical concerns. For example, Philip Lubin of the University of California, Santa Barbara, has published research detailing a laser array that could theoretically broadcast a signal throughout the observable cosmos. The $100 million Breakthrough Listen project is looking for any signs of life in neighboring star systems, including exoplanets out to a few hundred light-years distant. Breakthrough is also figuring out where to deliver such a message, Warden continues. Vakoch said that Edward Snowden's speculation about encryption could present challenges for people looking for extraterrestrial life hundreds or thousands of years from now. On the other hand, technology might advance sufficiently in the next few hundred years so that eavesdropping over mind-bending long distances might be possible. Encryption is a problem, but it's not the large...
Why they make us sound out to be like we're just so nosy? Eavesdropping from so far away might be obtainable. Like, why they make us sound like that?
Just one for human listeners. Another civilization wouldn't even need to worry about encryption if it wanted to hide its identity, according to Vakoch. When it comes to telecommunications, as they are evolving on Earth, we have historically been noisy, with a lot of TV and radio leakage into space. However, as we transition to communication by fiber optic or telecommunication satellite, this leakage is decreasing. Therefore, any advanced alien civilization that overhears Earthlings or reaches out to us must have been listening and transmitting for thousands or even millions of years. Otherwise, it's simply too likely that Earthlings and aliens will miss each other in the vastness of space and time. For now, the best hope is still searching for direct messages from aliens. Humanity has undoubtedly given some attention to how messages may be interpreted if aliens were sending them directly. The Arecibo message was a 3-minute data broadcast of 1,679 bits sent to space from the Arecibo Observatory Radio Telescope in Puerto Rico in 1974. There are only two prime numbers, 73 and 23, that can be multiplied to get 1,679, according to Vakoch, which should give an intelligent extraterrestrial a hint as to the message's dimensions. If they've figured out radio waves, they probably know something about math. Aliens could still be perplexed by the message's contents, but they would be able to recognize symmetrical shapes in the correctly pieced-together image, confirming their accuracy in doing so. Vakoch stated, "We want to do anti-cryptography. We want to make a message that is as simple as possible to decode. The ideal message to space, according to Vakoch, would also be anti-efficient. Rather than transmit data once in a small form, you'd want to make it redundant and lengthen the conversation so that your listener would have a way to check his or her or its work. And redundancy would also help correct for any transmission errors that might occur over long distances." The wonderful thing about the debate between Edward Snowden and Neil deGrasse Tyson is that it brings up the whole subject of information encoding and how and why we would wish to do that. There are SETI projects looking for flashing lights, whether visible spectrum or longer-traveling infrared. Radio isn't the only technique to locate aliens, though it remains the cheapest and most promising at the present. The Fermi Paradox, named for the physicist Enrico Fermi, who first asked, "Where is everyone?" is a puzzle that arises from the fact that there have been no signals yet. In a galaxy packed with worlds, why isn't Earth crawling with alien visitors? In 1950. Since then, astronomers have proposed explanations ranging from sociology to biological complexity. Aliens might be afraid of us, or consider us unworthy of attention, for example. Or it may...
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think they scared of us. Now, seeing us as unworthy, that's possible. I can see that. But scared, not based on their technology. You could tell they ain't scared of us. They were mimicking the pilot's movement, like almost toying with us, just flaunting that it's nothing we can do if they want it. Yeah.
Maybe that aliens communicate in ways that we can't understand, so we're just not hearing them. Or it may be that aliens lack communication capability of any kind. Or it may be that aliens are simply not there. Of course, there's also the possibility that there are no aliens. Some scientists, most notably Stephen Hawking, believe the answer to the bigger question, whether it's a good idea to find out, is a resounding no. But those queries don't address it. We only have to look at ourselves to see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet, Hawking said in 2010. He likened encountering aliens to the encounter between Christopher Columbus and the Native Americans, which didn't turn out so well. Others have foreshadowed dire outcomes straight out of science fiction. Roving aliens that might come here and take advantage of the resources on Earth, the people, or perhaps end all life as we know it if they follow our message like a homing beacon. At the very least, the idea is morally dubious, according to physicist Mark Buchanan. Any civilization detecting our presence is likely to be technologically very advanced, and may not be disposed to treat us nicely, he said. We are a noisy species, and our messages have been making their way through the cosmos since the dawn of radio, according to other scientists, so they believe it's worth the risk, and they add, somewhat grimly, that it's too late anyway. The Voyager probe is outside the solar system in interstellar space, speeding toward a star 17.6 light-years from Earth. Even if we don't transmit a carefully planned message, we're already reaching for the stars. Of course, we have the right to be afraid of aliens based on our own actions. If they're anything like us, with a track record of ignoring the lives of people from other societies and civilizations, then our concerns are well-founded.
The House Oversight Subcommittee held a hearing on UAPs, or Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, this week, and heard testimony about object sightings and government possession of non-human material. One notable moment from the hearing was when whistleblower David Grush said the United States government is absolutely in possession of UAPs.
Mr. Grush, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General.
Grush also answered to the government finding non-human biologics along with crashed craft. Let's watch.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Investigative journalist and author of UFOs, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record, Leslie Kane joins us now to discuss. Thanks for being with us, Leslie.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So what do you make of that claim by Grush there of the non-human biologics?
Well, I mean, that is the most, probably the most explosive statement that was made in the whole hearing in terms of just trying to wrap your mind around something that hard to imagine, that there's actually biological material, if not bodies of non-human beings in the possession of the U.S. government.
Immediately when you hear somebody say that, you automatically in your mind go to picturing what it would look like. Am I the only one that did that? I just started picturing what I think it would look like.
I have no way of knowing whether that's true or not. I have talked to others who have told me that it is true. But I think tracking down the crash retrieved objects, we may have a better chance of doing that than getting our hands on biological specimens. So I'm not in a position to know.
David Grush also said during his testimony that he has gathered this evidence from 40 people that he's interviewed. Do we have a sense of who these individuals are and whether or not how many of them actually had firsthand knowledge or direct access to the craft or biologics that were recovered?
We don't know who the specific individuals were, although there may have been some that have come forward, and whether they're part of that pool of 40, we don't really know. For instance, we had a couple of people in our story in the debrief that were supporting David Grush's testimony. But most of them, I believe, are not comfortable coming forward publicly because they don't feel safe. There's lots of restrictions on what people can do and say. They don't want to break their security oaths, or they may be uncomfortable that it might threaten their jobs or their careers in some way. They're afraid of retaliation.
And their families, their loved ones closest to them, all get affected.
Which is what happened to David Grush. So people are kind of waiting in the wings, I think, to see how things unfold. And then I think more and more will come public in support of him. And we will hear from people who have direct firsthand knowledge of these programs, which Grush didn't have.
See, that's what I'm waiting for. More and more people to come out. When we start getting more numbers on the side, on our side, oh, it's gonna be tough to silence them then.
It sounds like there is a bit of breaking news today moving out of this about the subcommittee coming from McCarthy. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know about the subcommittee?
Yes, I did. I just heard from Burchett's office that the four members of the committee, the Appropriations Committee, who held the hearing, have written a letter to Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The four members are Mr. Burchett, Matt Gaetz, Luna, and Jared Moskowitz. And they have asked him for the formation of a select committee to investigate UAP. It would also involve the collection of information, and it would, conduct oversight, the issues around oversight that need to be addressed. And what's really important, I think, about this select committee is that it would have subpoena authority, so that this committee would be in position to subpoena some of the witnesses that we all want to hear from, and or documents that maybe could be declassified for the public, because they've also focused on the problem of overclassification. They want to release more documents to the public. So it's a very exciting development, and I hope that it happens.
And I understand you were at this hearing earlier in the week, Leslie. What was the mood like in the room? Did people seem to be taking this seriously? Were people kind of brushing it off or joking about it?
I know they showed, like, outside of the courtroom with the line down the hallway. It looked like outside of a concert.
And not just among congressional members, but the other people in the audience. How did they seem to react to some of this information that was coming out?
Yeah, the mood, Amber, was really just sort of joyful and, everybody on high alert, everybody very excited. There were literally hundreds of people who lined up to get into this hearing, members of the public who could not get in because there just wasn't space. People started lining up at 2 a.m. in the morning, hours and hours and hours, stayed up all night to try to get in. So, and the mood, I did not get a sense of any disparaging or ridiculing or any kind of attitudes like that. It was very serious and very excited.
So we've seen a few viral moments that have gotten the most attention online. What happened in the hearing that you would point to that's worthy of attention that's not getting attention?
Well, that's a good question, because I do think some of the more, sensationalistic aspects of it are getting most of the attention, but there were a lot of other important points that were brought out. One of them, for instance, a need for pilots to report, to have a mechanism in which they can feel safe reporting. Ryan Graves mentioned that only 95% of that 95% of the pilots who do have sightings don't report them. I mean, that is a huge number. So something needs to be done to address that, because there's valuable data to be provided from these pilots, which isn't getting provided because they're afraid that they'll somehow harm their jobs, or that they'll be ridiculed, or there's still a stigma against this. So that needs to be addressed. There was also a point brought up about satellite imagery. There must be a tremendous amount of satellite imagery. I'm sure some of the classified briefings have included it. Can some of that be brought up? There's issues around government oversight that need to be addressed. So there's, a lot, and there needs to be basically an investigation to follow up on what David Grush has provided, the specifics, because he did say that he has provided names, locations, program names, all the data that the members need in order to follow up on what he's telling them. So that was a major point, that an investigation needs to take place to find out if what he's saying is true.
Former Navy Commander David Fravor also delivered a glowing account of the speed with which the craft he encountered moved. Let's take a look.
The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had, and you could put that anywhere. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave. And there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing.
Fravor added that the Pentagon never investigated the incident. What do you make of this, Leslie?
Yeah, I mean, the incident took place in 2004, and that was before the program was set up by the DIA in 2007 that was to address some of these phenomena, including UFOs. And then the ATIP program carried on inside the Department of Defense. So they did a kind of retroactive investigation of this case back in the early days of the ATIP program. So, but it wasn't, you know, in those days, these kinds of things were never brought forward. People were afraid to talk about them. And so fortunately, they did do this retroactive investigation. There's a long document that was put together by the investigative team about this case. There were multiple witnesses to it. It's very, very powerful, and there's a lot of data. So now I think we're going to see much more open investigation. If an incident like this were to happen today, I think it would be more public from the beginning, and hopefully more data would be shared with the public as the investigation was undertaken.
It's interesting you point to that sort of a shift in how freely we share information about UFOs, UAPs now. Throughout your career, you've worked through this shift in sentiments about sharing information about UAPs and UFOs with the public. What would you credit this change in how we handle the information to?
Well, I would credit to the whole kind of trajectory that began in 2017 with the New York Times story that I helped write. And it kind of opened the doors for this to be allowed to be taken seriously, because the story revealed that there was a secret program in the Department of Defense that was studying this. And that led the members of Congress to become interested and to receive all kinds of briefings about this. And so it just kind of built on that and built on that. When you have members of government engaged with this topic, seriously interested in it, talking about it as a national security issue, alluding to the fact that it may not be from our, may not be human, we're dealing with something extraordinary here, that the stigma starts to fade away. You need highly credible authorities to engage with this for that stigma to drop. And so I think that's really what's changed it. Prior to 2017, the government wouldn't even comment on this. They were absolutely unengaged. But that has changed so radically that we're seeing a diminishment in that stigma pretty quickly.
Good.
What do we know about the involvement of other countries' governments in the exploration of UAPs? Is there cooperation there between the United States and some of their global partners to basically
I would think, even though they say they don't, we would have to, like, a small part of us would have to assume that they're researching, looking into this as well. You know what I mean? Everyone always wants to gain an advantage, especially when you hear about technology that's far superior to anything that we ever had or have. When you start hearing that, then others are going to be trying to get their hands on that technology. So we have to assume that they are.
Investigate whether or not these craft are simply technological explorations by geopolitical enemies versus actually being extra normal phenomena.
Yes, I mean, as far as I know, our government does cooperate with our allies on this, especially within the group called the Five Eyes. We work with the UK closely, Australia, but of course we don't know a lot about what our adversaries know. Of course, we're not working with them, and the big question is around China and Russia and what kind of technology they may possess as a result of any kind of reverse engineering programs they have. So we're always trying to find out more about what they know. But yes, there is cooperation. I think it's done very privately and quietly between the different countries, but I do know that it does take place.
Leslie, thank you so much for joining us and breaking this down today.
Thank you very much for having me.
More Rising after this.